Here she comes. There she is. Hi, Jessica.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Well,
Oh
that's
my goodness, it's so good to see you. It's
I
been
know.
so
I was
long. There's so much to catch up
crazy.
on.
2.5 years, I think. Is that possible? Like in October of 2022. Where did the time go?
I have no idea where the time went.
Feels like
Oh
just
my
a couple
gosh,
months ago.
we have so much to catch
I
up
know,
on.
so crazy. So I'll read my little poem later. Well, actually,
Okay.
this is good. So we'll take a second. It's not long. Okay, so this poem by this lady in the I think 1930 or no 1918, something like that. So her name is Jessie Rittenhouse, and she said, "My wage." Oh, and I got to put a shout out to Aaron Young, who's the president of Laughlin USA, who does like corporate organization paperwork for us. Anyway, he read this at a seminar called Magnify Your Wealth, and it was just like mind blowing. So here we go. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is just an employer. He gives you what you ask. But once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have paid. Is that give it gives me chills every time I read it. And that's the real truth, right? And that's why we're here tonight, because we're all believers in creating our own wealth, taking control. Don't wait for that magical thing, person, whatever to come along and do it for you. That's not going to happen. So I am so glad to have you back, Jessica, because I think more now than ever, we've got to take control and train our brains and just learn it, right? Don't keep thinking it's like, oh, let's throw it against the wall, see if that works. Or how about that wall, you know?
So
Uh,
there is a
so
little bit of that too, throwing it
yeah,
against the wall and seeing what works.
there you
I'm
go.
sure in all of our journeys, right? There is
That's
a
so
little bit
true.
of that.
That's so true. So I am so excited to have Jessica. Is it Perrone?
Yep, Perone, you
Okay.
got it.
I was like, should I be saying Perrone? Well, so Jessica Perrone, the founder of Her FinIQ, a financial education system that helps not only women in general, but also focuses on the teens. Get them early. That's so smart to learn about their money and investing. And being a former Wall Street professional herself, she's got the nuts and bolts training. Oh God, kill me now kind of detailed knowledge around every little nook and cranny, but now shares it on a really easy to digest, very basic level, understandable language, which is really what we need because talking over our heads has not been working out too well. So she is our guest here
Absolutely.
on WIIN Women in Investing Network. And for those of you who don't know, my name is Athena Paquette Cormier, and I am the founder of this WIIN and also Mortgage Boot Camp, My Cash Flow Academy, and Investors Corner podcasts. And in my day life, I'm a mortgage advisor, real estate coach, and investor myself. So I strongly believe that wealth is created through education, not like timing and tricks and, the late night TV things, all that kind of thing. Because really, if we don't talk about money, especially from generation to generation, we're going to stay stuck, right? If we don't educate young women on how things work, then they're going to stay stuck. And that pattern keeps repeating itself, which we want to put a stop to that. And what's so funny is as young women learn, it goes upward too. They're teaching their parents, their mom, their, dad. So I think it's like key that when women make a change in our lives, we change everybody's life. So it's not just math and let me see if I can make money on Bitcoin or whatever. It's changing everybody when you change yourself. So I am just so excited to have you here, Jessica. I don't even know where to start. So why don't you introduce yourself a little bit because not everybody met you last time, and we'll just take it from there.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for the warm introduction. As Athena said, I'm Jessica Perrone, the founder of Her Financial IQ. Her FinIQ is my website and also my social handle. And really, I started Her Financial IQ to teach women the language of personal finance and investing. So I do have three courses. I have Before Investing, Investing for Beginners, and Stocks and ETFs Simplified. And just the reason why I got into Her Financial IQ is kind of a great story to begin with. So, my ex-husband and I built a fintech company together. And right before we went through our divorce, we wanted to make things work. So I was going to be the good wife at home watching the kids, and I stepped down from the company. And I love stay-at-home moms, and their job is so demanding. But I was just not a good stay-at-home mom. No, I had a career and I'm like, I was going crazy at home. So here am I trading on the side. I'm trading equities. I live in a very affluent part of New Jersey. And I'm like, of course, there's so many very smart housewives here. Of course they want to know how to trade. So I was like going to the basketball course, the cross fields, to the malls, like, I'm teaching women how to trade. And like the anxiety and the rosacea that went up their necks, the stress of just like the concept of learning how to trade was crazy. And it was that point in time I had the light bulb moment that said, oh my goodness, it's not teaching women how to trade, but just teaching them the language of investing. And
Mm,
that's how Investing for Beginners started, and then Stocks and ETFs Simplified, so that women can learn the language of investing and take a role in the household to have that investing conversation, to go to the financial advisor, to contribute more to their workplace IRA. Um, just take advantage of the different various ways that you can get invested into the market. So, but what I also noticed was that so many women were taking my courses to pay off bad debt, and
mm,
bad debt of like credit card debt, especially.
mm.
And you can't do that. It's like going to Vegas to try to pay off your debt, right? It just doesn't work that way.
Oh, so they were
So
investing actually to make big capital gains to pay off debt. Wow.
they were trying to, but
All
it
right.
doesn't work that way. It really doesn't, because all the gains that you make is not going to offset 21% interest rates, right?
Or higher.
It's or higher. Exactly.
That
Exactly.
sounds cheap these days.
Yes, for sure. So I created the Before Investing and the Financial Ducks, which teaches women how to pay down debt, how to budget, how to shop for high yield savings accounts, emergency funds, and credit scores. You know how important credit scores are for mortgages, Athena, right?
Super
So
important.
all the tricks to do to get your credit score up while you're getting all your ducks in a row. So that's the Before Investing course that I created. So during my day job, though, believe it or not, Athena, I've actually ventured out into real estate because it's so
Oh,
important to
good for you.
diversify.
Yes.
So, and I was just having this
Awesome.
conversation tonight because, for example, when a few years ago, 2020, yeah, about 2 years ago, when the stock market wasn't doing well, I did well in real estate. So to be diversified across asset classes is so
Mm,
important, and to always have cash on the side for
yep.
opportunities. So cash, real estate, and then the markets, right? So
Yep.
this is how we really build wealth as women.
Yep. That's awesome. That's awesome. So why don't we start kind of at the beginning, right?
Okay.
So I think people want to know if they have very little money. If you were someone like a college student or someone starting over, if you have very little money, what would you do? Like, what are the steps to building wealth? Where would you
Sure,
start?
absolutely. So that would be the financial ducks, right? Like getting your financial ducks in a row. So the very first thing is to pay down high interest debt, because that is just ticking away and eating at your surplus. It really is. So our goals to investing is to create a surplus, right? Think of it as the CFO of your finances, right? And I had this aha moment when I was listening to the U.S. deficit and how we're trying to create a surplus, and I was like, oh my goodness, that is a lot of Americans with their credit card debt, right? It's very
Yep.
similar to the US government, which is kind of an interesting
Big
concept to talk
difference though.
about.
We can't go tax our kids or tax our neighbors to like pay off our, we got to come up with another.
Absolutely.
Too bad, right? Well, you could
Absolutely.
become a government, I
Absolutely.
guess, but that's not a good path.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So in order to pay off bad debt, we want to really budget, right? We want to budget to have monies to put towards our debt, which makes us have to think about our needs and our wants, right? So we need to think about what are our needs and what are our wants. And last night I had this conversation about the YOLO generation. And the YOLO generation is the you only live once generation. And this is the young generation that believes in, just live and have the experiences and run up the credit card debt because you only live once.
Right.
And this is a terrible idea. It's terrible. It's really,
Oh,
really
come
bad
on. You're
idea.
such a party pooper.
But okay, but and this is why I actually did this how to live life to the fullest, right? How to, the YOLO generation and how to live life to the fullest without wrecking your budget. And the best way to do it is creative side gigs. Creative
Oh.
side gigs. And that's something that I did to pay for college. So
Hmm.
and this was my first experience with credit scores and how important credit scores are because credit scores and interest rates to a certain amount affect your cost of borrowing capital. Let's say that again. Your
Hmm.
credit score and interest rates affect your cost of borrowing capital. So the better your credit score, the cheaper it is to borrow. This is
Everything
such
gets
an
cheaper.
everything gets cheaper. So, and again, paying down your debt because of your credit utilization helps your credit score as well. So, like all these things come together when you're putting your financial ducks in a row. I think apologies. I go down these rabbit holes. As you
That's
can tell, I'm
okay.
just so enthusiastic about the topic, and so
Yeah, I
this
get it. So we've got,
what to tell these college students. There's just like so much to tell them, right?
I know there
So,
is. And you
so
kind of wish, like, I wish I would have known this or that earlier on in life. So even, yeah, you sound passionate because you do. You want to be able to tell everybody. And it is our own path. And, you can't force people to, like, if I could force people to buy a triplex first and then a house, like, if I could do that, I certainly would force people. But, it's their own path and we're not allowed to force people really. So, that's all you can do, right? Is be your enthusiastic self and say, this is the repercussions of if you do A, B is going to happen, right? So, yeah. So
absolutely,
pay off the
absolutely.
debt, which is super difficult, and even budgeting. So that's a really bad word, right? Most
Well,
people go, what?
to some, right? So we want to rewrite that in our heads
Yeah.
because that's the first thing people think. They're like, oh, that's constricting. Just like a diet, right? Like if
Yep.
you tell yourself you have to stick to certain calories, it's like, diet, right?
Yeah.
But no one likes that word diet, right? So
Right.
same with that's this kind of like ick feeling that a budget gives you.
Mm-hmm.
And last night I was actually talking to a student that said she used to feel that way about her budget, but really she rewrote that script in her brain and now thinks of it in terms of telling her money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Let me say that one more time. It's telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went, right?
Love
So it is
that.
your
Yep.
plan. It is your financial plan for yourself, your budget. And your budget can be short term and long term as well. And so especially as a youth, thinking in terms of life stages and what is coming up in front of you as well is really important to think about. If you're thinking about YOLO and the right now, you're not thinking about your future, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
different life stages that are coming up and how these actions right now can set you up for success or failure in the future.
Mm-hmm. Right. So do you think that electronic payments, just the electronic world, digital world affects us? Like I remember growing up, my dad's a PhD in economics. My mom was an English lit major, right? And dad took me from third grade to eighth grade math one night because I needed to know the answer to my homework in third grade. So I didn't know that until I got to eighth grade and didn't go to school too much because of surgery. And I knew how it worked. Like, okay, so that's brilliant. But my mom is actually the one that taught me about money, right? She had these
Oh,
envelopes
wow.
and she had the money and she says, if this is the grocery envelope, this is and this is the 70s, late 70s. And I wanted to buy a record. And so she said, and I just expected them to give me the money. So, as most kids do, I want this. And you hand out your money, your hand. But she says, oh, well, if you want something, you have to save your allowance. And I'm like, save? That's going to take forever. The record was like $10. I only got $1. It was like, frustrating, right? But she showed me these envelopes. And I just feel like when you put real cash towards something, you feel it so much more than if you just like hand a credit card, right? And I'm just wondering if the digital age has lost something. I mean, it's not practical to walk around with money all the time. I get that, but I'm wondering if that's affecting things. It's just so easy to spend money because it's not actual money, right? If I had to give up my silver coins, right? If I had to like take my silver coin and give it to someone to buy something, I think twice because it's a physical thing, right? So what are your thoughts on the digital? What is the barrier? Like, what is the barrier here
Oh my goodness, I have so many things I
to
want to
the
say.
YOLO, to the YOLO?
I have to curb, I have to curb my thoughts. I have so many of them right now that I
Yeah.
want to say. So the first thing is that we are in a digital society. And our credit scores are dependent on our credit cards, right? So for
Mm-hmm.
example, if you are only doing cash or even debit card and not using a credit card, you are not building your credit score. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot
You're
of
not even
immigrants
on the
that
radar, right?
right, a lot of immigrants that come to the US, they only pay cash and they're not building their credit scores. And that was something that my mom fell into as well. She was an immigrant to the US and didn't believe in credit. She didn't understand it. So she didn't have a credit score, and thus, I wasn't able to take out student loans because she couldn't co-sign for my student loans.
Mm-hmm.
So that is like the first thinking of it. It's like your credit score is your financial passport, and the better the credit score, the easier it is to get access to capital. But not only that, but like HR checks your credit scores,
Insurance
utilities,
companies, yeah.
insurance companies, mortgages. So it's so important to have a good credit score. So that would be the first thing I'd say about, the cash system and even landlords, right? So I have a friend, an older friend who has an older daughter, very good job, did not believe in credit cards, paid cash for everything with her debit card, did not have a credit score, grown 20 some year old woman, has a great job, first, last deposit, could not get the apartment without her mom co-signing because she didn't have the credit score.
Wow.
So
Yep.
yeah, and the same thing for another entrepreneurial woman friend of mine. Her credit score isn't great for whatever reason. She has a great business, but isn't able to rent an apartment. So your credit score is
Yeah, it's a
so
game, right?
important. It
It's a
is.
game, and people don't know that you have to have this equipment. It's like if I sent you out to play football with a bunch of hockey equipment, that's not going to work out well, right? So you have to know what equipment you need to win at this game.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so let's just
And
pretend we cleared out all that debt. What next?
sure. Well, okay. So you cleared out all the debt, right? You have your budget. You want to use the trackers, create your budgets, and then you want to make sure you have your emergency fund because especially as a homeowner, right? Things go wrong.
Mm,
And if you have to use a credit card for, whatever emergency is, well, you're back in that
cycle, yeah.
high interest cycle and you're losing money, right? You're just paying. And I have an example of, for example, if you buy a Gucci purse on your credit card and you're only doing the minimum payments, how long it takes you to pay off that purse. And it's actually like 5 years to pay off
Oh,
the
I thought it
course
was
with the
going to be
minimum
like
payments.
20 years.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like it's insane that it's not taught earlier, the detriment of interest on credit cards and the importance of credit scores. So let me move on a little bit.
Yeah.
So then you find you have your first job. And luckily, I didn't have that money conversation growing up. But my first job out of college, I had an amazing mentor. And this gentleman on my first paycheck said, Jessica, what are you doing with that paycheck? And I'm like, oh, I'm paying off credit card debt and I'm paying rent and I'm going out Friday night. Right? Like typical, like,
Yep.
out of college, enjoying life,
Hmm.
YOLO situation.
Yeah.
Um, and he's like, well, aren't you going to take advantage of the 401k and the stock purchase plan? And I was like, what are those? I had no idea
Mhm.
what they were.
Right.
And even after I did it, I didn't know what it was. Does that make sense? Like I did
Yeah.
it, I put 20% towards it. I got the matches, just like he said, but I hadn't, and he's like, oh, well, it's good for saving, And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I still didn't put together that I was investing in the stock market,
Hmm.
right?
You
I,
just
I,
knew that the money was coming out of your account and
and I was like, maybe it's a
it was
savings
a
account, maybe
savings
it's,
or
yeah,
whatever.
or whatever it is, that it went to magicians in the sky that did
Hmm.
something to it so I could take it for retirement. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Which is
Like,
a way, way long, when you're 22, retirement, it's like another planet. That's so far off,
yes, and I wouldn't have even, enrolled in it because I didn't know any better. I didn't
Yeah.
know what, a 401k was. I didn't know
Hmm.
what a stock purchase plan was. We never had these conversations in my household. And even if I asked my parents permissions, they wouldn't know what it is either. So,
Hmm.
so much gratitude to this gentleman. Now, because I didn't know that I was investing in the markets. Okay, this is actually a funny story, Athena. Do you mind if I go down this
Yeah,
rabbit
go
hole?
ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so because I didn't know that, I was in a cubicle surrounded by all these guys, and they had a broker. And when I first started investing, we didn't have online retail brokerages where you could just go
Right.
place the trade yourself. You needed to have a broker, and you picked up the phone and you placed the trade, and they got commissions on both the buying and the selling of the trade. Now
Hmm.
it's commission free trades. Thank you, Robinhood, for doing that.
Yeah.
Um, and they were all talking around me about how much money they were making, and I should get in on these trades. But I didn't understand that they had monies with this broker, and the broker was calling them on these tips for
Oh.
stocks, and then the stocks would go up because of the tips. Then they would sell it, and then they take the money and put it in something else. So
Mm.
I called the brokerage. I put like $500. That was big money for me back then. It was big money
Yeah.
for me back then. And I put it in, and it was a penny stock, a biotech stock. I didn't know
Mm.
any of this, going into it. And I promptly bought it at the top, while they were selling, but I didn't know they were selling because I didn't have enough money in there to have a broker, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Telling
Right.
me what to do. And so I lost all my money. I lost all because it promptly sold off. And this is one of those pump and dump schemes that
Yeah.
they
Right.
have on Wall Street. And you'll see these pump and dump schemes on TikTok and whatnot. And
Hmm.
so what
Well, now it's on that Reddit. Like now it's so many people do this, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so you have to know what you are investing in. You need to know what you're investing in.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is if I would have known that I was investing in the market through my 401k, I probably would have taken that $500 and put extra contributions to my 401k instead
Mm.
of going down this rabbit hole of learning how to trade on my own. But if that happened, guess what? I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah,
So,
it was a lot of money in the day, but it's a fairly cheap way to learn the lesson, right?
exactly,
Because
exactly.
the worst thing that could happen to you is if something like that works, then you think you did a smart thing and the money grows and then you lose even more, right? So
Yes,
so in a
yes.
way, that loss, that tragedy in your young life is just like, okay, it taught me, and I won't, when you have more money, you're not making that mistake, hopefully, right? Because you've
Absolutely,
learned that one.
absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
this goes back to the story to the youth is put that money away in your 401k. Meet your company's match.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
At
Do it
least,
from
right.
day one, at least. Do it from day one. Just a disclaimer, I'm not a financial planner. I'm an educator. I am an accredited financial counselor. So I teach women, I teach individuals about finance. Everything I talk about is for educational purposes.
So it sounds like you were all kind of talking also about, I had asked you, what are like the biggest, say, 3 to 5 mistakes? That would be one of them, right? Is to invest in something you have no idea what it is, right? If people can't
Yes.
explain it to you, or if you can't say what it is in plain language, you probably shouldn't put your money in it, right?
Sure. The other thing that I would really like, so I teach something called the identifying investment method. And basically, us as women, we are super consumers. Okay. So we can see trends ahead of everyone, right?
Mm,
So, like, for example, I will notice if there aren't cars in a certain fast food restaurant, but there are cars in another fast food restaurant, right? I'll also think about, experiences I'm having, things I'm using. And so what I do is I teach women how to look at products in their everyday life because, and this is another thing that I put together that I went when I started investing, I was like, what do I invest in? And that was like
mm,
a huge journey for me as well. I was like doing all these stock screeners and doing all this fancy analysis. And it wasn't until the day that I said, you know what? I love Clorox. I love, love, love Clorox. I love the smell of Clorox. I just love bleach.
mm.
And so I had said to someone, I was like, you know what? I think I want to invest in it. What do you guys think? And the guy was like, well, with the generic market and the pressures on it, I don't think it's a good investment idea. And I was like, okay, it's not a good idea. But it actually has a really great dividend. So for a long term, right? For a long
Mm-hmm.
term strategy, it potentially could fit right in. So
Right.
like it was just trusting my own gut and what is in my everyday life. And that's
Mm,
really where my strategy resulted into is I have a core of about 200 stocks that I believe in. And that is what I call that's a watch list. So on Wall Street, traders, hedge funds, they have focus lists, stocks that they focus on, they know really, really, really well.
right.
And so that is my focus list of companies that I use on a regular basis that I know a lot about, and those are the companies that I invest in. However, there is one thing to think about.
Mm.
So there are 11 stock market sectors. I'm going to go a little bit advanced here. Is that okay, Athena?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, sure. So there are 11 stock market sectors. Okay. And what's important when you are doing self-directed investing, there's the difference. There's having someone manage your portfolios for you, and then there's self-directed investing, which is what you do in a retail brokerage account. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what you want to do is you want to be diversified across those 11 sectors. And what women typically do is they typically think of products that are consumer based, and they're in basically like three sectors: consumer staples, consumer discretionary, and then communications. It's those three sectors that women are very focused in. So they
Mhm.
leave out the other sectors. And so when there are market moves or sector rotations, you know, these stocks move in tandem together. So not
Mm.
only do you have to be diversified across stocks, you need to be diversified across sectors. And that's why ETFs can be such a powerful tool in your toolbox. And so an ETF, I like to explain it as like a report card. Okay, you're like, what? A report card? An ETF? So with a report card, right? You have your GPA, and so you have your GPA, and there is a grade, but your grade is an average of all the classes that are within it, right? So
Mhm.
you have math, and that is an A, right? And that or a four, let's say a four, right? And
Mhm.
then you have English, and that's like a 2.5. And then, you average in all of your grades, and that is your GPA, but it's a result of all those classes within that report card, right? So,
Mhm.
um so these ETFs are like report cards because there's a bunch of stocks within it.
Mhm.
Okay. And then you have the corresponding prices, and then your ETF is an average of those,
Mhm.
which is
And why do you
fantastic
love ETFs so much?
because you get diversified. You
Mhm.
get diversified across various, so depending on what you invest in, because there's also themes. So for
Mhm.
example, if you say, okay, I love crypto, right? You could do a crypto ETF, and it is diversified. It's either diversified across various companies, um, crypto miners, right? So it's a basket of stocks. Whereas you could also say, okay, I want to do all consumer. I want to do all lifestyle. I want to do hotels. I want to do, you could do all different types of themes and
Mhm.
have it diversified over a bunch of companies because sometimes it's really hard to pick one company, right?
Yeah. And
So,
that sounds risky to be all in with one company.
yes, and all in on one sector either, but you can do that. So, for example, the S&P 500 is 500 companies. Thus, S&P 500. It's an
Mhm.
index of 500 companies. So even though it's heavily weighted technology, when you invest in an S&P 500 ETF, you are investing across 500 companies.
So if a few fail or go down, it's not such a big shock to your system, right? Because you've got all the
Well,
others balancing it out. And some that take off will kind of negate that or smooth it out.
sure, but not only that, because it's managed, guess what? If you don't perform well, they get kicked out.
Hmm. Right.
So that is the other part. If it goes down too far, if a stock goes down too far, it will get kicked out of the S&P 500. And so
Hmm.
that is also a benefit of an ETF. So when you think about managed accounts, depending on your risk tolerance, and we talk about risk tolerances in my Investing for Beginners course, which is basically the questionnaire that a financial advisor gives you when you first meet with
Hmm.
them, or if you sign up with a robo-advisor. A robo-advisor is just an algorithm that imitates how the process of a financial advisor, but you don't talk to a financial advisor. So
Hmm.
robo-advisors can be great tools for investing when you want to be diversified, if you want it to be based on your risk tolerance, and you're not interested in doing single stock names, and you're like, you know what? I want someone else to manage this process for me. So
Hmm.
that's another reason why I'm a big fan of robo-advisors, especially for people that are starting off. Have your retail brokerage account with a couple of stocks in it as your Vegas money, and
Hmm.
then, invest in either your 401k, your robo-advisor, or even a financial advisor as well.
Hmm. Cool. So after we've eliminated the debt and we've gotten some reserves, emergency reserves, how much do you think you need in emergency reserves? Because you hear all kinds of 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. Like, what do you think?
So you're absolutely right. The rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months, especially depending on how risky your industry is,
Mm,
or if you are an entrepreneur, or if you're a contractor. If you are a government employee now, I just put out a blog post, if you are a government employee, definitely start paying down that debt and
yeah,
start saving with emergency funds, because you don't know if you're going to be getting the axe. It
yep,
is what it is right now, but you have to be prepared.
right.
Um,
And
so
people always thought, oh, government jobs are forever, right? You can never get fired, da la 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 la. And now we're seeing that, oh, okay, that's maybe not true.
Yeah, yeah. So 3 to 6 months of the emergency funds, and where to put the emergency funds, right,
Mm-hmm.
Athena? So basically, right now we have a great environment for high yield savings accounts. If you use Bankrate as a tool to go shop for APY, a lot of people don't know that either, Athena, that you can shop for financial products, right? There's
I know.
you have the traditional banks in the neighborhood, and you think that they're the ones that have your best interest, but they're not going to tell you
Right.
that you can get a better rate somewhere else. No,
Nope.
they're there to sell you things,
They
sell you
probably would get
products.
fired if they said, psst, psst, you can go down the street, they got better deals. Yeah, that probably wouldn't go
Yes.
over well.
Yeah, and you know what? I had my passbook from my local bank, and I
Mhm.
loved going down there because you know what? I got a lollipop each time I put 25 cents, and my mom wouldn't let me have sweets.
That's
So,
funny.
every penny I found, I went right down there and I put it in that passbook, and I'll
That's
never forget.
amazing.
And I looked at it and I was like, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to
Yeah,
go to the bank.
awesome.
And it's interesting because I didn't know that you were supposed to shop for financial products either. However,
Mm,
I will say that for loans, it is good to have a relationship with a local bank, right?
hmm. Local,
Because
not the big guys. Yeah,
exactly,
for
and also
sure.
credit unions for sure.
Especially business owners, right? You should establish a banking relationship soon on, very early on in your growing your company. Yeah.
Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that you can't have a high yield savings account as well.
Mhm.
So, some structures that I recommend is to have your checking account with the local bank, or with the credit union, so that you're building the rapport, you have the relationship, and there are some credit unions that have really great interest rates on savings accounts as well. So
Right.
definitely look into that. But high yield savings accounts, and then, you know, name your savings accounts as well. So this is my emergency fund. This is my child's college account, though 529s, that's something else we need to be talking about too, right?
Hmm.
For the college savings accounts as
And
well.
why is that so
Uh,
important, the naming part? Why do you bring that up?
because once you name it, you don't want to take from it,
For other purposes
right?
that it wasn't intended
Exactly.
for, like the
Exactly.
Gucci purse.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So you make those buckets. You make those buckets, and you peel off the money into the various buckets as per your budget,
Yes,
right?
right.
So
That is awesome. So once you build up the reserves, uh, then you're ready to invest
yes, well, you're investing the whole time, hopefully, because you are contributing to your
or
IRA,
401k. Yeah,
right?
IRA or 401k. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then you start thinking about life stages, right? You start thinking about college for your kids. And so you can actually have 529 accounts as early as your child is born and has a social security number. You and all your family members can be contributing to them.
Yeah.
And what's really nice about the 529 plans is that they are target date funds. And what does that mean? Well, a target date fund takes into account when a point in time that you're going to need to take your monies out at. And based on that time horizon, adjust the type of assets that it invests in. So, for example, when you are younger and further away from that target date, you can be in higher risk, higher reward asset classes, right? But as you get closer to the date when you need to take your monies out, it is readjusted into less risky assets. Okay.
Mm.
So that you are able to take the monies out when you get to college.
So you're
So
not risking a big downturn just when you want your money out.
exactly. Thank you for that clarification. I really, really appreciate that,
Yeah.
Athena.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
that's one of the benefits of those 529. So again, it's like thinking about your life stages and where you at what point in time you want to do these things,
Mm.
right? So you have your job, right? You know, maybe you want that car, maybe you want a house, right? So these are the life stages that we're thinking about saving for as we're progressing through our lives.
Mm. So there's two kind of extremes that people ask me about. And so one was, if I just went through a divorce or my husband died or wife died, or if I went bankrupt, it's kind of like you feel wiped out, right? You feel totally wiped out. What would step one be? Like, let's say you don't have a financial advisor, and you weren't paying attention. So now we'll call it alone, right?
Hmm.
What would be the steps to rebuild, or what would you suggest someone do as their first steps?
Can you give more clarity? Is there, um, so it all depends on
What they
what
have already?
exactly, what they have already, don't have, job, like there's so many inputs. Give me a little bit, give me
Yeah.
some more
So
parameters here, please.
so let's just do the bankruptcy one, right? So if
Hmm.
someone had to file bankruptcy, they wiped out their debts through that bankruptcy, but they also tanked their credit score. But they have a job, right? Decent job. When they've made mistakes in the past and they feel wiped out. And the clients that I talk to, there's like some shame in there, and there's some
Yeah.
um, secretiveness. um, so with someone who has to start over from that point of view, what would you suggest, or what would you advise?
Self-love, right? The first thing
Mm-hmm.
would just be kind to yourself. Stuff happens, right? And so we don't want to beat ourselves up over the past and just look forward. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just very similar to, you know, gaining weight almost and like getting back on that diet, right? Just like don't
Mm-hmm.
beat yourself up. Just put your head down and just make a plan. Make a plan, make that budget and get that credit score because, do all the things you need to do. Really study how to get your credit score back because especially after bankruptcy, um, your credit score needs a lot of attention and you need to play that game to get your credit score back up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then also, sometimes we just gotta hunker down and go on a spending diet. Sometimes we gotta hunker down and like get a side gig. Really like put some effort in and just say, you know what? I'm picking myself up. I'm gonna giddy up and I'm gonna make this happen. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a little bit of tough love. Um, to the individuals around us is also really helpful, but also like kind and compassionate at the same time. Like, let's pick it up, let's do this, but also be kind to yourself about it. Shit happens
Mm-hmm.
in the past. Am I allowed to say that? Excuse my French.
I think
Beep
so.
happens. Um,
Maybe Carl can beep you out. I don't know.
right? And in the past, it happens, but it happened in the past. Don't beat yourself over it, but let's giddy up and let's make a difference. Let's make a difference. And there has to be the will there too, right? There has to be
Mhm.
some
The
will to
motivation,
make a
right?
change.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and so on the other side of the spectrum, I have people who come into inheritances and they also feel pressure because they don't want to like lose it or ruin it, or it's like someone else worked hard to pass this down and they feel a bit overwhelmed by this newfound wealth, we'll call it, right? So but they also know they want it to last forever. So what would you suggest with someone who just, you know yes, they still work, but they inherited this money? Where do you start to know what you should do with newfound money like that?
So I feel like it is, what is your mission in life at that point in time? What is your calling in life? And align with that mission, because an idle mind is like the devil's workshop, they say, right?
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of how much wealth you have, to really find what it is that you are passionate about. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing is stick to a budget and like really do some forecasting as well, because what I also see sometimes is that individuals will start living beyond their means. Like they'll be start living large because they think that they have all this new wealth, and then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden they are upside down, right? All the money's gone, they're upside down. So again, the budgeting part is very helpful in that. And also, um, when you have money and the people around you, get wind of that, well, then they also want things from you as well. So it's a whole holistic, really internal, kind of assessment when this process happens as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love to know tricks on how to preserve that. It is a mental emotional thing, right? And I have seen that where people inherit money, everyone's got their hand out and they don't. I think when you get money that you didn't earn or build, you don't understand how easily it can go away, if that makes sense, right?
Yes.
Like you don't understand that 100,000 is not that much when it can go easily, right? So yeah.
Yeah. And especially like a big house, big problems, big costs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people will buy things that are beyond their means, not understanding all the upkeep that goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
I see that a lot with boats, right? People are
Yeah.
like, "Oh, a boat. I would love a boat." But it's not just about the boat, it's about the gas to put in it. It's about the upkeep, the cleaning, the
Yeah.
storing off season, the mooring, I mean, the docking. I mean, there's just so many costs
Yeah. A
that
free
go with
boat
it.
is not free, right? Even if you got the boat for free, all of this other expense comes with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so like, and I just feel like, um, it's interesting because the older I get, the less I want. Do you feel that way, Athena?
Yeah. Like
Like,
I want to get rid of things now. Before I had
yes,
nothing, so it wasn't a big deal. But now it's like, oh wow, we've got so much stuff here, and or I'll have duplicates of things, right? So that means that I wasn't really aware of what I had since I got two of them, right?
yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I feel like also experiences are more important to me now as well.
Mm,
Because and this also might just be, watching my grandma pass.
mm,
And she didn't have any wealth. She died in a hospice, and all she had was a memory book, like a picture book of memories.
wow.
And I'll never forget that. And really, when you leave this world, you leave with your family and your memories. And it's really like a little dismal, but after that, I was like, you know what? It's not about the things. It's about my
Mhm.
family. It's about my relationships.
Mhm.
And I also feel like, and again, from this presentation I did last night about the YOLO generation. I feel like we are starting to be a things society, right?
More and
And
more. And
so
I
more
thought
and
young
more.
people were less things driven, you know? But then I see all these feeds with people admiring, celebrities that their outfit is like 100,000 between the person that, all the label brand stuff that costs so much money. I thought we were getting away from that, but now I see that maybe not. Yeah. So it's
Right.
funny that
And
you mentioned
less,
that.
and also less one-on-one relationships too,
Mhm.
less in-person relationships as well.
Mhm.
So there's a whole psychology behind that too. And a lot of people feel isolated as well.
Mhm.
Because of social media. So like I know this is like philosophical right now. Apologies
Mhm.
for going
No,
down
it's
this rabbit
okay.
hole. But I also feel like there is an emotional part of money, and there is a effect also of social media on our emotions and spending as
Yeah.
well, and impulse spending and emotional spending. And I feel like just knowing about this and kind of like really looking inside about this can be super helpful with our relationships with money.
Mm. When I've heard that surrounding yourself with like-minded people also is one way to protect yourselves in many ways, or to be lifted up, right? Like to surround yourself with people who have gone through it before, whatever it is, and can show you a path, and support you in that growth, whatever it is that you're seeking, health, wealth, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Um because yeah, if you surround yourself with spenders, then most likely you're going to be not tempted, but you might slide into that thought pattern of whatever they think that makes it okay, right? So surrounding yourself with people who are excited about savings and excited about putting that one penny in the bank or whatever, that whole thing is, so where can people get, you know, learn about money, resources? I know your class, I think everyone should
Plus,
check out your
yes.
class for sure. And
Thank you.
that's
Thank you so much.
herfiniq.com, right? Um,
Yep, absolutely.
Definitely check that out. But if someone wanted to get started with some free learning, there's so much stuff out there that I feel like you could fall on something that's untrue, thinking it's true because it's in written form on the internet, you know. So,
Yes.
do you have recommendations for resources for people from all stages? But yeah, maybe for people getting started, I think that's probably the best.
Sure, sure. I love Bankrate. I'm like such a big fan of Bankrate. That is just an awesome resource. I've heard really great things about Rocket Mortgage for their tracker, their spending tracker.
Oh.
And then Investopedia is such a wealth of knowledge about various investing topics as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like those three resources for personal finance and investing are such great ways to get up to speed. The other thing that I really love, and I love listening to Bloomberg Radio in the morning,
Mm.
um, and it's when you listen to financial news all day, especially with your kids around, they learn through osmosis. You learn through
Mm-hmm.
osmosis. So I love recommending, like, if you want to get your kids involved in investing, just have conversations. So like
Mm.
I would, before my kids started driving themselves, I would listen to Bloomberg Radio in the car, and then I'd be like, "Did you hear that?" And I'll be like, "Because this happened, da, 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 da." And they're like, "I know, mom." Da, 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 da. And I'm like, "You did learn something." I'm like, "You did learn something. Good." I'm like,
That's
"Yay!"
awesome.
Yeah. So It also just promotes healthy conversations
Mm,
about, and just also like a worldly view too, by listening to financial news as a, because it's not spun so much
right,
as a lot of other news channels, because it's like facts. It's
right.
facts about what's going on in the world and companies and whatnot.
So true. Like if you can stand to watch C-SPAN, that's a lot better than the news channels, although you get it all uninterrupted. So, but it is kind of like going to the source, going to the nitty-gritty, right? There's no editing and making people look a certain way or another way, right? So yeah, those
Absolutely.
are great points.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to say, if you guys have any questions, we're about ready to wrap it up, but I would love to hear if you have any questions for Jessica. Um, I'm just checking what questions we had. Where do you get education? Yeah, so what would be the top thing that you would tell young women to do? Teenagers or early 20s, what would be the top thing you would say that they should, maybe not now, but tomorrow, what would you say they should do to build wealth?
Um, do pay only spend what you can pay off on your credit card on a monthly basis.
Wow,
Do not run a balance on your credit card. That's where we want to be at. We want to be at paying off our balance on a monthly basis, because that's the only way you're going to build wealth, right? By
mm,
not living beyond your means. Don't do it.
mhm,
Don't do it. Your credit
mm,
card is not an ATM.
you're right.
That
So
would be
true.
like number one. And then
Number one.
the second one is contribute to your 401k. Do everything you can to put as much money in there as possible, and you will see it grow. Like if you max out your contribution, that's how you have those millionaires by the time that you retire.
Mhm,
Um, and then when you can, right, you can always put money in a robo-advisor on the side, but also like you said, Athena, real estate, diversify, um, and just really say to yourself, this is the best way to really grow wealth, is ask this question to yourself on a regular basis, which is, what is the return on this investment? Okay, that's
mhm,
number one. What is the return on this investment? Whether it is buying candles at TJ Maxx at the checkout line, right?
mhm.
Like, because you're spending money, you're making an investment. That money could be invested, but instead you're buying a candle, right? Like,
Right.
what is the return on this investment? Okay, so that's number one. And will this debt pay me back more than what I put in? Okay, again,
Mm,
will this debt, because this is the rule of good debt, will this debt pay me back and cover the interest I paid on it with a
right.
gain, right? So that is sort of the other train of thought here when we're building wealth, right? Those are the
Mhm.
two trains of thoughts that I really want women to think about.
So will that debt get me an asset that pays me back the cost of the debt plus more
Plus,
and be as
yes.
greedy as you want, right? I want it to be 200 more, 500 more. I want it, set
Oh,
because
why did
you
you use the
can,
word greedy? Why did you use the word greedy? No, it's
because
not
why not?
greedy.
It's not
It's
a
not
bad word.
greedy.
Budget's
It's
not a
not
bad word.
greedy. No, it's strategic. It's
Strategic,
strategic.
yes. I say go
Don't give
for
it,
the stars.
right?
I think, like you
Strategic.
said, when you get older, when you've got some time behind you and you can look back, I try and tell people, what would your future self say, right? Like imagine your future self is going to thank you so much for not buying the purse and buying the investment, right? And that investment, if it's going to be, let's say it's $2,000, and with the rule of 72 and everything, let's just say it's $10,000 in 10 years, which is very slow, pokey slow. But then you can have the purse and you've got money, the original money left over. That's the fun part, right? Is that these things are going to grow behind beyond your wildest dreams. Like, houses were like $10,000 in this neighborhood in the 70s, right? 50 years later, they're over 1 million.
I love that.
That time is on your side. I love saying too, given 30 years, anyone can look like a genius, right?
Yes, absolutely.
If
And
you,
that actually, you just brought up another thought that I had
yeah.
as well, Athena, is understand how interest rates work.
Mm,
That is another thing that I would tell, because if you understand interest rates and if you know when interest rates are going to be going up and going down, that gives you such a big advantage on your savings and loans, right? Understanding
mhm.
savings and loans and when to borrow and when there potentially could be opportunities. Like these are all, it's all related to interest rates. So understanding interest rates is another aspect that I would say, another tool in your toolbox when you're trying to build wealth.
Mm, awesome. So I don't see any questions, so I get to ask, I guess. So I'm a big fan of books, as you could probably tell in the background. There's books everywhere here. What is your favorite current book or your favorite book of all time that you would like people to know about?
Oh, my favorite all-time book of all times. Oh, that's so hard because I have so many.
Well, you could not play favorites and name a couple, I guess.
Um, uh-oh, uh-oh. I don't know. I would say my favorite reading is not necessarily books, it's
Okay.
financial news. I am a financial news junkie. So how about I
Mm,
tell you the sources of my news? Because
yeah.
I have three news sources that I absolutely love. And I don't like when I go to bed at night or when I wake up in the morning, I have all my financial news and I'm just like immersed in it and I
Mm,
love just catching up on the news. I do. I'm a geek. I
yeah,
am a
that's
finance
okay. You
geek.
can admit it.
So,
That's awesome.
I have Trade the News. That is a news service for traders. I have Seeking Alpha. All of my focus lists are in those platforms, and I have them sent via email into an inbox, and I catch up on all the news on
Okay,
all my
very cool.
positions. And then also Bloomberg News. Like I love reading all of that. And then I read a lot of analysis from other sources as well. So really, it's just I'm completely immersed in the stock market, and
Awesome.
and I've been branching out into real estate, commercial real estate
Hmm.
news as well. So that's something, getting to know the
So
players and what's
fun.
going on in the different spaces, because just like the stock market, as you know, there's different verticals and different verticals have different levels of risk associated with them as well.
Hmm.
So that's my next journey, Athena, and maybe
How
we'll have
fun.
that conversation. We'll have that
Yes.
conversation next.
Yes. Next,
Um,
we'll do that. I would love to talk about that.
I would too.
Very
I really
cool.
would. And Tina, thank you so much for having me. My phone is the battery is about to die here.
Yeah. Well, and
So
we've
I'm
come up
gonna,
at our time, or we're a little past. So, yeah, thank you so much, Jessica, for coming and sharing your wisdom. And everybody, check out herfiniq.com if you'd like to get started, you want to gift it to someone to get started, or you just want to get back on track. I think you need support in these kinds of things. So, Her FinIQ is definitely the place to go. And so, thank you
thank
again,
you so
Jessica.
much.
You're so
Oh, thank
welcome.
you so much, Athena.
You're
Thank
so
you
welcome.
for
Great seeing you.
thank you for having me. Thank you for everything you do. And I really look forward to our next conversation.
Me too. Be well. Thank you again.
Okay, bye
Bye,
now. Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Happy Women's History Month. Bye.